Good morning. It's May 17th, 2024, and this is update number 7. Did I forget anything? Hey. A training update and a health update and a podcast update. And let's talk about the podcast update first. I had the distinct pleasure of being a guest on a podcast by none other than Darlene Marshall, who is a certified positive psychology and wellness coach. Now, this wellness space is admittedly filled with a lot of snake oil salespeople, quite frankly. Social media and elsewhere, people claim to be this, but let me tell you somebody who is not that, and that is Darlene. Darlene has the educational chops and the experience. She has a master's in applied positive psychology, and she has a raft of certifications from the National Association of Sports Medicine for personal trainer, wellness trainer, and she has the experience. She has the empathy. She is also a wonderful human being. How do I know this? Because she spent a few days with us at our kickoff for the Spartan Leadership Program, which I had the privilege of attending last year with the Travis Manion Foundation. And she talked to us about positive psychology. And quite frankly, she planted some seeds in here that have bloomed. Long story short, she had me on the podcast for an episode called When Every Day Matters. And we had a chat about my journey, about where I am in my life now, how my cancer diagnosis has impacted that. The podcast is called Better Than Fine. You can find it on all the platforms where you find your podcasts, and look up her website. You'll be glad you did. If not to listen to me drone on, she's got some really, really good content on that channel. You should check it out. The podcast episode is called When Every Day Matters, on the Better Than Fine podcast with none other than Darlene Marshall. The training update. Training has been going really well, and we are now just under 8 weeks away. Last weekend, I'm happy to say, was the longest ride in a couple of ways. One, it's the longest I spent on the bike on one ride. Time-wise, it is the longest distance ride I have ever done at 61 miles. And cumulatively over the course of 2 days, last Saturday and Sunday, I logged basically 9 hours on the bike, 5.5 on Saturday and 3.5 on Sunday. And it went really well. I think I'm getting the nutrition dialed in. My body seems to be responding to the longer efforts, and I'm really grateful about that. This week I did have a bit of a failure this week, actually. And you know, this is a thing that you accept. When you're going to do something hard, if you don't stumble along the way, maybe that thing isn't hard enough. But this week I had a workout, which the kind of workout that I've done in the past, it's asking for basically a tempo level of power output, about 75 or 80% of threshold for over the course of 4 intervals. I just didn't have it. This was Tuesday. Didn't have it. Could not produce the power. And when that starts happening, of course, the self-doubt creeps in. My goodness, am I in over my head? And that space gets dark. And then you realize, okay, I just don't have it today. So I biased down the workout and just finished it with the power that I could put out. Gather my senses. Yesterday I did it again, and it went fine. Not that it was easy. It is a demanding workout tempo. So you're not at threshold. You're not at your red line, but you're in that space that you're asking a lot of your body, and you are asking it to do it for an extended period of time. It went well, but again, I guess what's the message there? You know, training isn't always going to go well. It's not all unicorns and rainbows. And when it doesn't go well, that's when you have to sort of dig deep and figure out, you know, why am I doing this? And is this all worth it? And of course, when I start thinking about that, of course, the answers are resounding. I'm doing this for a lot of good reasons. And yes, it's worth it. What is on tap for this weekend? It's basically a rinse and repeat. Although the ride this weekend, the rides are not quite as long. I'm going to do 3 hours tomorrow, just locally, just time on the bike, basically. And then Sunday, we're going back up to the mountains to the Blue Ridge, to Skyline Drive, and get a good 3.5 hour looking for 4,000 feet of climbing or just under. But at even if I don't get the 4,000 feet, we're looking for an intensity that is basically asking more of the body and getting it used to being under that kind of a load for extended periods of time. So that's what's on tap this weekend for training. All right, so that's a wrap on today. That was a 3-hour endurance, easy pace ride, and it was a little damp. Yeah. No worries. The good news is it's going to be raining tomorrow on Skyline Drive. Let's move to health. This week we had our quarterly visit with oncology at Walter Reed. I go every 3 months to oncology we're basically, my cancer is at a spot where we call it, we're in surveillance mode. We are basically in containment mode. We are in wait and see mode, which sounds kind of passive. It's not really passive because I do get a Lupron injection every 3 months. You can look that up. But the crux of it is to get a blood work done that has dozens of markers that are tested, and to sit down with the oncologists and review them and make sure everything is tracking, and then go back to the infusion room for a very pleasant injection of Lupron in the ass. That's every 3 months, and it went extremely well. I'm so happy to report my PSA is still undetectable. From a high of 116 in June of 2021 to now undetectable, and it's been undetectable for, we're closing in on 2 years. Beyond blessed about that. There is always this looming question. I am going to do this every 3 months. I don't choose to focus or dwell on these visits. It's just a part of this cancer journey. And again, I don't dwell on them because that's not how I choose to live my life. I choose to be positive, and I choose to make every day matter, and that's really good to feed my soul and feed my brain. But when that 3 months come up every a couple days prior, I start to get a little bit angsty about, because that's what we're going to find out. Is the containment strategy still working? Is my cancer still not growing? Is my cancer still, it's not really remission, but is it being contained? And this week, again, the answer was yes. Win, and I hope to ride that pony for as long as possible. The Lupron, the chemo we did before, and now the Lupron, that is every 3 months, is doing its job. I'm beyond grateful for that. And my oncologist, we really didn't have much to talk about, which is a good thing, right? As far as the cancer goes, but he saw, because he does his due diligence, that I had a little visit to the ER 6 weeks ago that I talked about in the last episode, and he asked all about that. Of course, he is properly concerned that, okay, did you just have a gentle fall? We need to be worried if you are fracturing pieces of your spine with gentle falls. Once we went over it, he understood, okay, no, this wasn't a gentle fall. There was a sudden stoppage, as you could put it. There was some significant trauma incurred. He is confident that even if my bones were 100% healthy, it's likely I would have fractured something. Now, I have mild osteopenia in various parts of my body. That is a side effect of Lupron. That is something that we are monitoring. I have my next called a DEXA scan. It's a very quick bone scan to measure bone density. That will come in early June, and we do that periodically to see how I'm doing, because one of the side effects, again, of Lupron is reduction in bone density, which is not a good thing in the long term. And it's likely that at some point I'll have to go on some kind of med for, I don't know what the term is, to help stop the bone density decrease. But as we were talking about this, he said, all right, when did you get back on the bike, and how's everything going? And I told him, but after, on day 8, I was back on the bike, and he sort of paused and he said, you broke your back at 60 and we're back on your bicycle in 8 days. I have a slight meniscus tear. I'm in my 30s and I can barely do anything. And we laughed, but I really appreciated the perspective there. The just from his third party medical perspective, he was paying me a compliment, and I really appreciated that despite the things that happen, you pick yourself up and you dust yourself off and you keep going. That's the health update. All good to report there. The last thing I want to mention is that on Instagram a few days ago, I posted in jest, I posted a reel, a short video showing all my kit drying out on hangers and my bike chain getting ready to get lubed, and then the bike is taken apart for Team Swan years and mechanics. And I had a young man named Ethan. Ethan, if you're watching, thank you for reaching out, who said, what are the age limits and how do I sign up? And I realized that, wow, okay, I had to apologize. Say, look, that was just kind of a joke. I'm just a guy training for this long ride, and that's just sort of illustrating how I'm keeping up with my stuff and the bike, and could use some help. Well, it turns out Ethan is in the UK. He likes to sail. He gets on a bike a lot, and he's doing an independent fundraiser for cancer research. How cool is that? Ethan, you are the kind of person that makes the world continue to rotate in a manner in which it should. I appreciate you reaching out, and I hope you follow the rest of the journey. So thank you for watching. Thank you for those of you who have contributed to the fundraiser. All of the links for that are down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, they are also, the link is also in my bio on Instagram. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.